So I want to show you today a few ideas with the new noise plethora from Befaco, a few patching ideas, sound design ideas, basically how to add texture to your patches. And we will start with an envelope follower. Basically an envelope follower will follow the envelope, the amplitude envelope, the actual volume of an incoming signal, and will output control voltage accordingly. So higher the volume, the higher the voltage, the lower the volume, the lower the voltage. I have here something to show you this quickly. I have here a drum loop. Right, and now I will send this drum loop to an envelope follower. In this case, I'm using the one from Bog Audio, available for free, right? And you can see on the scope that basically what we get is an envelope, an amplitude envelope, basically control voltage that is following the amplitude of the drum loop, right? So again, the lower the volume, the lower the voltage, the higher the volume, the higher the voltage, right? And we can use this for all sorts of things. What I like doing is control volume, right? Sort of volume of noise. Again, in this case, noise plethora. I'm using here just white noise for this example, right? Going through a VCA. And if I use this signal, right? We get basically the rhythm of the drums, but played with noise, and noise plethora has many different noise types. We will see this in a second. I just want to mention again, in VCV, I will use this module from Bog Audio. If you want to do this in hardware, you might already have an envelope follower and you don't really know it. If you have the Distinct, for example, you have an envelope follower. If you have something like Rampage or Maths, you have an envelope follower. Right here, again, I have the drums going to the input of Rampage. The output, we will get the envelope, right? With the rise and fall, we can change the how the envelope will react. Right, so if you have Rampage, I'm sure also with Math you can do this. If you have a slew limiter in your case, here I have the one from Befaco, it will work more or less like Rampage. Again, you just send the audio to the slew limiter with the rise and fall or attack and release. Sometimes you will can control the reaction of the envelope, and this is the envelope that you will get as a result, right? So if you want to do this in hardware, this is also quite possible. Maybe you already have a module that you can use for it. And here I have a few more examples. I just want to mention first of all that throughout this video I'm going to use the teleport modules from Little Utils just to make the patches a bit more cleaner, basically it will teleport the cable. So here, for example, I have a clock going to the input, one of the input of the input module, and from the output module, I get this clock, right? So instead of the clock going everywhere and audio going everywhere, the cables, this makes the patch a bit cleaner. Okay, so what I have here, I have a kick and a sort of a snare. Kick from Kick All with chopping kinky, snare from Tremor, from Volt. The gate sequencer is sequencing this rhythm. There will be a link in the description to all of the patches we will look at today. I used only 3 available modules, so you can all download it and have a closer look if you want. Right, and I also have here a melody, another Kick All. Yes, Kick All is also a great for melodic sequences, and some delay. Pitch coming from sample and hold, and I have also velocity changes, random velocity changes on Kick All. So sometimes the volume will be lower, sometimes the volume will be higher. Right, and what I'm doing here, I'm mixing those voices, kick, snare, and sequence, melody. I mix them into an envelope follower. Again, I'm using the one from Bog Audio, and you can see the envelope, the resulting envelope on the scope. Right, and again, I'm using this to bring in the volume of noise plethora. In this case, I'm using a different noise. We will switch also between different noise types, but this is the result. Right. So we get the rhythm of what we had, the kick, snare, and melody, but played with noise as another layer, again, to add texture and sense noise plethora. has many different noise types and textures. It's great for adding this upper layer. Just instead of just using white noise or pink noise, you get all sorts of different textures with it. Right, you have also a built-in filter. By the way, in hardware, the filters are analog, just to round up the digital sound of the noise. Right, and in the right-click menu, we can change the different algorithms. So let's go with a different one. Right. Listen to this. It's maybe a bit too loud in this case, but for this example it's okay. But it just adds another layer of texture on top, following the rhythm. Right, so without and with. I have here hi-hats and sorts of chords coming from another noise plethora. I know I can use the other one, but I prefer to use multiple instances in this case, just so it's easier to see. Right, so there are hi-hats and sorts of chords. I'm using also perk all from the FACO, which is a VCA with a decay envelope. Right, so it will sound like this. Right, you hear those chords. And what I have here, I have again the same drum loop we saw before, right? So if I solo it for a second, right, the same drum loop. And what I'm doing here, I'm sending it first through a bandpass filter. Now why I'm doing this? Because I don't want the whole drum loop to go to the envelope follower. I just want a frequency band, right? So this one, this range, right? I can choose a different range also. Right, but I went with this one here. So now this, after the filter, it goes to the envelope follower and we get the envelope just for this band. And I'm not using the sound at all in this patch, so the sound itself is muted. The drum loop is not going to the mix. I'm just using the envelope to bring in another noise, right? So I'm going to mute this here. And this is the resulting noise. Right, again, lots of modulation on the noise. I'm also modulating a reverb here. I have a reverb also modulated. Again, there's a link in the description to where you can download the patch and have a closer look exactly what's going on. Right, but the important thing, again, I'm sending this drum loop to a bandpass filter and then to the envelope follower. So I'm just using this band as an envelope. I'm not using the sound itself, just the resulting envelope to bring in this noise and create another rhythm, another texture on top. So let's listen to everything together. Right, I will take the texture out, both of them. This is without noise plethora. And now with. So another interesting output noise plethora has is the gritty output that will sound like this. And we can control the number of grains and make this really nice and gritty. Right, and again we can use the built-in filter. Again, in hardware the filters are analog, so this here is the output of the filter, and we can choose the source, gritty or white noise. I will choose gritty. In this case it's bandpass, and I will take the resonance up. Right, and we get a really interesting texture. And of course, this you can send to another bandpass filter or high pass or whatever. In this case, I have tangents from volt, and I'm going to raise again the resonance, so we get double resonance, sort of, just before it starts to self-oscillate. Right? Really interesting sound. Okay, so here I have an example, of course. I have a sort of a Krell patch, so a generative patch, a generative envelope and pitch information coming from Rampage. Rampage is looping, both envelopes are looping, and there is sample and hold, right, modulating both envelopes. So basically we get a generative envelope, and this is also controlling the pitch. The voice itself is the even VCO through chopping kinky, which is a wave folder, basically changing the timbre of the sound. Right, now if you download this patch and open it, Rampage will not loop by default. So what I have here, I have the startup delay from Count Modular. Basically, as soon as you open the patch, it will output a trigger that will trigger Rampage. So Rampage will directly start looping as soon as you open the patch, and you don't have to trigger it manually. Right, and here I have this gritty output with a resonance high and some modulation with LFOs, panning and modulation of the filter. Again, adding this nice sound, nice texture to everything. Another algorithm that I really enjoy is from Bank 1. It's called Bazzarilla. This is number 9. I really like this one. So there is lots of modulation here from Oct, right? And it will sound like this. Maybe I will solo it. I really like this algorithm. Right, so everything together. Right, and in this case I'm using again the gritty output through the filter, but I have the grit quantity all the way up, but the envelope from Rampage is controlling it, right? So the amount of grains, the number of grains will change, again in a sort of a generative way. And this is going through another really resonant, in this case high pass filter, so we get a sort of a wind sound. Right, sometimes more dense, sometimes less dense according to the envelope from Rampage. Right, and just for fun I'm sending the main voice, this Krell voice, through a delay. So have a listen to the textures we get from all of the different noises going everywhere. Another interesting idea you can try is using noise plethora as an exciter to excite resonators, bringing the resonators to resonate, and the texture itself will come from noise plethora depending on the noise you are using. For example, you can use rings from mutable instruments, right? Basically sending the noise to the input. And again, with different noise types and settings, you will get different results. Right, another module you can use and excite is a delay, for example, sending a burst of noise into the delay that has high feedback and short delay times, basically carpless strong synthesis, creating string-like sounds, interesting textures, interesting voices, sounds you will not get with a normal oscillator, right? And again, depending on the noise types or the algorithm you're using on noise plethora, you will get different results, right? So here I have per call just to create this burst, this spike of noise, and the chronoblob 2, right? High feedback, short delay times. And again, depending on the noise and the filter, we will get different results. Right? Really interesting sounds and textures. Right, so again, here I have a few examples. I have here the Squonk sequencer from Nischi. I really like this sequencer, sequencing noise plethora, right? Sequencing the different parameters of noise plethora. Again, per call as a really short envelope. I just want a spike, a burst of noise. And in this case, I'm using a delay from Hora. It's called Millennial. And it's basically a delay, and there is a resonator mode in as well. So you can also bring it to resonate. It has even a volt per octave input, so it will also follow 1 volt per octave, right? The repetition is basically the decay, right? So it will sound like this. Right, it's an interesting sound, an interesting texture, again, depending on the noise you are using. You can get different results on the decay. Right, here I have another example. In this case, I'm using the resonator from Prism. It's called Rainbow. It's inspired by the 4MS spectral resonator. So if you have this module in hardware, you can also use it with this. And again, noise plethora is exciting this resonator, basically bringing it to resonate. In this case, it will produce chords. Right, so if I solo it. Right, basically we get a 6-note chord, and again, depending, you can see there is modulation here on noise plethora. Depending on the noise, you will get different textures. Really nice for sound design. Right, now you can also excite a chorus, for example, because a chorus is nothing else but a delay. So you can also excite a chorus. Here I'm using the one from Surge. The feedback again is the decay. I'm modulating the timbre a bit with the cutoff here. Right, again, burst of noise through per call. I know I could use the other per call and noise plethora just to make this easier to see everything. Right, I'm using more instances of the same modules. The Sec3 with 7 steps, sequencing everything, so it will sound like this. Maybe I will solo this as well. Right? This is the chorus being excited. Right? And if you want to try this in hardware and you don't have any resonator, but you have a few bandpass filters or filters that you can use, right? You can send the noise plethora through those filters, bring the resonance almost to self-oscillation, just like we've seen before, and you can get chords like this even, right? So here I'm using 3 bandpass filters, I'm mixing them into the spring reverb from the Faco, and after the reverb through some saturation and folding with the Briatus from Vult, caudal for lots and lots of random chaotic modulation. Random chaotic, is there a thing like random chaotic? Never mind, this is how it will sound like. Right? Nice gritty texture without folding. Really nice. Another thing I always recommend doing is using noise as a modulation source, basically sending noise to all sorts of different CV inputs and adding texture to the sound through those CV inputs, mixing noise in weird places, right? So here I have Max Slicer from the Faco, of course, sequencing the even VCO, going through a low pass filter. Right, I have per call again as the envelope and VCA and some delay. And I'm using the envelope, maybe I will zoom in a bit. I'm using the envelope from per call also to open the filter. Right, now what I want to mix in noise in this cutoff point. Right, so I have here noise plethora already going to a mixer also from the Faco. So what I will do, I will mix the envelope together with the noise. If you do this in hardware, of course, you will need a DC coupled mixer, so it will also work with the envelope and with modulation sources, right? So I'm going to mix the envelope with the noise, and this will go to the CV input. Now, channel 1 is the envelope, and channel 2 is the noise. Right? Listen to how much character, how much instability it adds to the sound without and with. Right, so again, I'm basically mixing the noise with the envelope, adding texture through the cutoff CV input of the filter. Right here I have another example. I have the phrase sequencer from impromptu sequencing, a sort of a bass with 2 even VCOs. Again, I'm mixing them into a low pass filter. It will sound like this. Right? And what I'm doing here, I'm sending noise to a VCA, right? And from the VCA, basically I'm using the VCA as an attenuator. It goes to the pitch input of the even VCO. You can also use an FM input. You will see this also later on, right? But I'm using a VCA just because there are no dedicated attenuators and I don't want to send the noise at full strength, right? So now if I add a lot, it's chaos. Right, but if I add just a bit, again, it adds this instability to the sound, this grittiness to the sound. Right? Again, without and with. Adding texture in an unpredictable place. And of course, also here I'm going to mix in noise through the CV input of the filter. Lots of character now this sound has. Another example, of course, you can use noise in other CV inputs, not just filter or FM. Here I have a key call being sequenced by a 5-step or 2 5-step sequences that I'm mixing together. Right, it will sound like this. Maybe I'll solo it also. I love using key call as a melodic voice. Right, now I'm going to use noise. I'm going to use this filtered noise here from the lower part of noise plethora. I'm going to use it to modulate basically with the noise the shape, right? Again, mixing in noise in an unpredictable place, right? Again, adding texture and character to the sound. Right, and another example I have here. Maybe I will take this out for a second. I have a triangle wave going to chop in kinky. Again, it's a wave folder from Befaco. Right, and I have smooth random voltage as pitch information, creating a sort of a solo line, I guess, an organic solo line. Right, so first of all, what I have here, I have noise going to the FM input, and here I have a dedicated attenuator that I can control the amount. So again, too much is chaos. And in this case, I'm using the gritty noise, so there is not so much going on. But again, it adds instability to the sound, to the pitch in this case. And I'm sending noise also to the CV input of chopping kinky. Again, too much is just too much, but a bit just to add some texture, right? And you get lots of texture, lots of character, interesting sounds. Just bringing your patch to a different level. Right, again, all of the patches are linked in the description. You can download them. I used only 3 available modules, so you can all download them and have a closer look. I'm going to leave you with some more sounds. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments what you think. Cheers.